Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, maybe a cup of tea or coffee in hand, and just stared out the window wondering, what happened between me and my children? Maybe it used to feel so natural. Holidays, Sunday dinners, those quick phone calls just to say, "Hi, Mom," or "Hey, Dad, how are you?" But lately, it feels like something shifted. Like you've become invisible, or worse, like your voice doesn't carry the same weight anymore. If you've ever felt like that, even just for a moment, you're not alone. It's one of the quiet heartbreaks many of us face as we get older. We raise our children with all the love, all the effort, sometimes sacrificing pieces of ourselves, and then one day they're grown, busy with their own lives, and suddenly we're being talked over, dismissed, or even outright disrespected. And you're left wondering, when did I stop mattering? This is not just about parenting. This is about dignity. It's about how we feel in our own homes, at our own dinner tables, and within our own families. Because respect isn't just a nice thing. It's something we deserve regardless of our age. Especially after 60. And if you've noticed that your children no longer treat you with the kindness, patience, or appreciation you once expected, I want to tell you something important. You are not powerless in this situation. You may be older, yes, but you are not invisible. And you are certainly not without influence. Today we're going to have a heart-to-heart. Like two old friends sitting on the porch chatting about life. No judgment, no lectures, just real talk. I'm going to share 6 powerful ways to help you rebuild the respect that might have faded over time. Not through guilt. Not through yelling. But through small shifts that carry big energy. Respect starts within, and you still have more power than you think. Let's start with something we often forget when we've been hurt or dismissed. How we carry ourselves teaches others how to treat us. Now, I don't mean dressing up to the nines or walking around with our noses in the air. I'm talking about your inner posture, your emotional backbone. See, the moment you stop believing you're worthy of respect, the people around you can feel that. It seeps into the way you speak, the way you move, even the way you react to a harsh comment. Have you ever noticed that when someone disrespects you and you let it slide, maybe out of love or maybe because you didn't want to make a fuss, it happens again and again? It's like leaving a door cracked open during a storm. Eventually the rain will come in. So the first powerful thing to do is gently, but firmly, close that door. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with quiet strength. Take a moment and reflect. When was the last time you calmly spoke up and said, "I don't appreciate the way you just spoke to me," or "That hurt my feelings and I'd like us to talk about it"? Now you might be thinking, that would never work with my kids. They just roll their eyes or brush me off. And maybe they will, at first. Especially if they're not used to seeing this side of you. But you're not saying it to change them overnight. You're saying it to remind yourself that you matter. And that's where respect begins, within. Let me tell you a story. A lovely woman I met a few years ago, we'll call her Joan, once told me that her grown daughter would constantly interrupt her. At family gatherings, during phone calls, even mid-sentence. Joan said nothing for years, thinking she's just busy. I don't want to seem sensitive. But over time, it chipped away at her self-esteem. She started feeling small. Then one day Joan took a breath and said, kindly but directly, "Sweetheart, I'd really like to finish what I was saying. I know you're busy, but my thoughts are important too." There was a pause. Her daughter looked surprised, even a little defensive. But something shifted. That moment planted a seed. And over time, Joan's daughter began listening more, even asking for her mother's opinion. You see, setting boundaries doesn't have to be a battle. It can be an act of love, for yourself and your family. Because when you model respect for yourself, you're also teaching your children how to treat the people who raised them. Now here's something else to remember. Your value does not decrease because someone else fails to recognize it. That's a hard truth, but a freeing one. You could have been the most devoted parent in the world, and still find yourself being treated unfairly. That doesn't make you any less worthy. That doesn't erase all the nights you stayed up with a sick child, all the birthdays you planned, all the advice you gave, the hands you held, the hugs you offered. It's still all there. It still matters. But here's the thing. As we get older, we often wait for others to validate us. We wait for a thank you or a compliment or a phone call that says, "I see you, I appreciate you." And while those things are wonderful, they can't be the only source of our worth. Because if we're always waiting for someone else to shine the light on us, we'll be stuck in the shadows when they don't. Instead, I want to invite you to light your own lamp. Find the things that bring you joy, pride, and peace outside of your role as a parent. Whether it's learning something new, joining a community, or just rediscovering old passions, every time you step into your own light, you send a quiet but powerful message. I am still here. I'm still growing. I'm still worthy. And that's where things start to shift. Your children may not notice right away, but slowly they'll start to feel the change. You won't be that same tired version of yourself who says yes to everything or shrinks back to avoid conflict. You'll be the person who carries themselves with quiet confidence, who doesn't need to prove anything, but also won't be pushed aside. Before we go any further, if anything I've said so far has struck a chord with you, if you've nodded along or felt a little lump in your throat, go ahead and like this video or share it with someone you trust. Maybe a friend, a sibling, someone walking this same path. It might be just the encouragement they need today. We've only just started this conversation, but already, I hope you're feeling a little spark. A reminder that even when relationships become strained or distant, there are still ways to bring dignity, warmth, and self-respect back into the picture. And you don't have to do it all at once. One shift, one choice, one boundary at a time. Let's keep walking this road together. So, we left off talking about how respect begins within, and how setting boundaries, even gently, can start to change the tone of your relationships. Not through demands or shouting matches, but through calm self-assurance. And maybe that idea lit a little fire in you. Maybe you've even started thinking, okay, maybe I can do this. And yes, friend, you absolutely can. Let's keep going because there's more hard work to do here. There's another powerful truth I want to share, and it's this. What you tolerate teaches others how to treat you, but what you reinforce teaches them even more. What do I mean by that? Let me explain it this way. Imagine you've got a small garden. It's nothing fancy, just a patch of soil and a few flowers. Now, every time someone walks across it with muddy boots, the plants get crushed. But if you keep smiling, saying nothing, and then go back and clean it up afterward, what are you teaching those people? That it's okay to walk through it. That the garden isn't really off limits. That you'll quietly fix it no matter what. Now imagine you put up a little sign. Maybe even a small fence. Not an angry one, not a barbed wire wall. Just a gentle, clear signal that says, please respect this space. Matters to me. That's what we're doing when we speak up, when we calmly stop tolerating rude behavior, or even when we simply stop rewarding it with silence. Here's what happens far too often, and I say this with love, because I've seen so many kind-hearted parents fall into this trap. Your grown child snaps at you, brushes you off, maybe even says something hurtful. And what do? You keep the peace. You tell yourself they're just stressed. I don't want to make it worse. I'll let it go. But letting it go doesn't always lead to peace. Sometimes it leads to patterns. And those patterns teach your children that they can continue, unchecked. But here's where the magic happens. You don't need to confront them in a dramatic, tearful sit-down. You just need to stop feeding the behavior. For example, if your son calls and talks over you for 15 minutes straight, never asking how you are, next time you can pause the call early. Hey sweetheart, I think I'll let you go. Let's talk another time when we can both really listen. You say it kindly, but you say it. That's the fence around your garden. Or if your daughter only calls when she needs something, and never just to connect, you can change how you respond. I'd love to help, but I've got something planned today. Let's talk tomorrow instead. You set a tone. You signal, my time is valuable too. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. Because clarity is kind. And when people understand your limits, they may not like them at first, but they'll begin to respect them over time. I once met a gentleman named Richard who struggled with this. His adult children would show up at his house unannounced, help themselves to food, leave dishes in the sink and barely even say thank you. And for years he smiled through it. Until one day, after a long week and an even longer visit, he sat them down and said, "Listen, I love having you here. But I'm not your maid and this isn't a hotel. I want us to enjoy each other's company, but I need you to pitch in and show me the same respect I give you." At first, there was awkward silence, a little resistance, but eventually, they heard him. And the next time they visited, his son brought groceries. His daughter washed the dishes before leaving. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. That's the thing, when you change, everything around you has the potential to change too. It may not happen overnight, but little by little those ripples start to spread. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. But what if I speak up and they pull away even more? What if it causes a bigger gap? That's a valid fear and one I hear all the time. The truth is, yes, it might create some distance at first, especially if your child isn't used to you standing your ground. But sometimes space gives people a chance to reflect. And the kind of respect that's born from honesty and boundaries is always stronger than the false peace that comes from silence. Let me say that again just so it lands fully. Real respect grows when you stop settling for scraps and start expecting what you truly deserve: kindness, consideration, and mutual care. And if your child does step back for a while, that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've drawn a line, and now it's up to them to decide how to respond. You've done your part with grace. The rest? That's their journey. You can't control their choices, but you can control how you show up. One of the most empowering things we can do after 60 is to remember that we're still the author of our own lives. Just because the kids are grown doesn't mean our story is done. In fact, for many of us, this is where the best chapters begin, because now we're writing with wisdom, with the calm that comes from experience, and with the quiet strength that says, "I know who I am. I don't need to shout it, I just live it." Before we move forward, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where you finally stood your ground with a loved one? Maybe your child or even a close friend. What happened? How did it feel? Share your story in the comments below. Not only will it help others who are watching, but it just might help you too. There's something powerful about putting your truth into words. And if you haven't had that moment yet, if you're still building up the courage, that's okay too. Just being here, just listening, just considering a new way, that's a brave first step. We've already uncovered a lot, and there's more to come. So take a breath, give yourself some credit, and let's keep walking this path together, one thoughtful step at a time. One of the things I've learned, especially after 60, is that respect isn't something you ask for just once and receive like a package on your doorstep. It's more like a garden you tend, a presence you embody. And when that presence is clear, calm, and rooted in self-worth, people start responding to you differently, almost like they're waking up and realizing, "Oh, I hadn't been listening, but I need to now." We've talked about holding your ground, setting clear boundaries, and refusing to feed disrespectful behavior. Those steps are powerful, but there's something else just as vital. Something that often gets overlooked when we're focused on what our children aren't doing right. And that is, showing up as someone you yourself respect. I know that might sound a little abstract, but let me tell you why it matters. Because the way you treat yourself, the way you speak about yourself, carry yourself, invest in yourself, tells the world how they should treat you, including your grown children. When you neglect yourself, when you stop trying new things, when you always put yourself last in the name of being the good parent or the easygoing grandparent, people stop seeing you as a full, vibrant human being. They start seeing you as, well, background noise. That might sound harsh, but I say it because I care. And I know how easily it happens. So many parents after 60 fall into a quiet kind of invisibility. Not because they aren't loved, but because they've stopped shining. They stop pursuing their own joy, their own growth, their own life. And here's what I want to remind you of, with all the warmth and encouragement in the world. You are still here. And you are still allowed to be the main character in your own story. Maybe you've always wanted to take a painting class, or go on that weekend bus trip with a local senior group. Or write the first chapter of that story that's been sitting in your heart for years. You don't need anyone's permission to begin. And here's the secret. When you begin showing up for yourself in those small, meaningful ways, your children notice. They might not say anything right away, but something shifts in how they view you. You're not just mom or dad sitting by the phone, waiting to be needed. You become someone they admire again. Someone they want to know more deeply. Someone who commands respect, not with demands but by living fully. I remember this gentleman, Harold, who came into one of our community groups a few years ago. He'd retired early, had adult kids who barely called, and told me point blank, "I just feel forgotten." He said he didn't want to be a burden, so he stayed out of the way. But you could see it in his eyes, he was deeply hurt. So, with a little encouragement, he started volunteering at a local animal shelter. Then he began woodworking again, something he hadn't done since his 30s. Slowly he found himself smiling more, talking more, being more. A few months in, his daughter visited and said, "Dad, I didn't realize how interesting you still are." Can you imagine? Not still loved, but still interesting. That's the power of showing up for yourself. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It might mean dressing up just because you feel like it, saying no to something that drains you, or reconnecting with an old friend over lunch instead of waiting for your child to call. Every one of those choices says, "I matter. I'm still here. I still have a life worth living and respecting." Now, let's be real, there might be some resistance when you start doing this. You might hear things like, "Why are you acting different?" Or, "Since when do you care about that?" And that's okay. Let them adjust. Because your job isn't to stay small to keep everyone comfortable. Your job is to grow, even if it makes others sit up and blink a little. And don't let guilt whisper in your ear. You're not abandoning your children by choosing joy. You're not being selfish for wanting to thrive. In fact, when you care for your own spirit, you become a stronger, more centered presence in everyone's life, including theirs. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it. What's one small thing you can do this week that's just for you? Not for the grandkids. Not for the house. Not because someone needs something. But just because it fills your cup. Maybe it's a walk through a park you haven't visited in a while. Maybe it's writing in a journal, even if no one ever reads it. Or learning a new recipe. Or finally watching that documentary you've been putting off. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Let it remind you that your identity is not just parent or grandparent. You are a person, a soul, a story still unfolding. And if you're willing, share that one thing in the comments. Tell me what lights you up, even if it's a flicker right now. You never know who else might read it and feel inspired to do the same. We're not just healing relationships here, we're rebuilding our sense of self, and that's a beautiful thing to do together. And since we're on this path of growing and encouraging one another, let me ask a small favor. If you found anything helpful or hopeful so far, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel and turn on the little bell for notifications. That way we can keep having these heart-to-heart conversations. You don't have to walk this path alone, and I'll be right here with you every step of the way. So, take a deep breath, give yourself a little smile. You've come so far already. And we're not done yet. There's more wisdom to share, more gentle shifts to make. And I promise it all adds up. Let's keep going. Isn't it something, the way just a few small shifts, in our thinking, in our boundaries, in the way we treat ourselves, can start to ripple out and change everything around us? By now, you might be seeing things a little differently. Maybe there's a soft flicker of hope where there used to be heaviness. Or a sense that, yes, you do have more influence in your relationships than you realized. That you're not powerless at all, not even close. And friend, I want you to know this. It's never too late to reset the tone of your relationships. Whether you're 60, 70, or 85, it's never too late to reclaim your voice, your dignity, your peace. Now, let's go a little deeper, into the kind of wisdom that often gets missed. Because the truth is, when you're trying to rebuild respect with your children, it's not always about what you say. It's often about how you listen. And I know, that might feel like the last thing you want to do when you're the one feeling disrespected. But bear with me. Sometimes what sounds like disrespect is really just pain, fear, or frustration coming out sideways. I've seen it time and again, an adult child snapping, withdrawing, being short or cold. And beneath that, there's something unspoken. A wound. A worry. An unmet need from years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, it's never okay for them to treat you poorly. But if you're strong enough to set boundaries, you're also strong enough to open the door to real, honest connection. So here's a question you might try next time things feel tense. Is everything okay between us? Not in an accusatory way. Not with sarcasm or guilt. Just a gentle, open-hearted question. One that says, I care. I'm willing to listen. And then, listen without defending yourself. That's the hard part. But it's also the part that builds bridges. One woman I met, Jeanette, told me how she hadn't spoken with her son in over a year after a huge argument. He'd said some truly awful things and she felt deeply disrespected. But after some time, and a lot of inner work, she sent him a message. Just 4 words, can we talk soon? When they finally sat down, she started with, I want to understand, not to argue. And that simple line melted something in him. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it opened the door. And that was enough to begin again. Now, not every situation will have that kind of ending. Some children may still hold on to their anger, their immaturity, their unkind habits. But the act of listening, really listening, can sometimes do more than any lecture or confrontation ever could. Because when people feel heard, they feel seen. And when they feel seen, they soften. And when they soften, they begin to respect. But again, this doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It simply means you're choosing curiosity over combat. And in doing so, you're staying in your power. Another powerful but often overlooked tip? Don't be afraid to lovingly mirror the respect you want to receive. Let me explain what I mean by that. If your child never thanks you for a favor, you can calmly say, you're welcome. I'm happy to help, and I do appreciate being appreciated. You're not scolding them, but you're planting a seed. If they interrupt you constantly, you might say, hang on, I really want you to hear this part because what I have to say matters too. That's not begging for respect. That's showing them what mutual respect sounds like in action. It's like teaching someone to dance. You don't yell the steps at them, you just start moving, gently guiding, giving them a rhythm to follow. That's what this is. You're showing, not just telling. There's another layer to this I want to mention, and it's this. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes your children will hurt you deeply, say things they can't unsay, neglect you in ways that feel like a slow breaking of the heart. And the world might say, just forgive them and move on. But real forgiveness isn't about sweeping pain under the rug. It's about choosing not to carry it every day like a stone in your pocket. You can forgive someone while still holding your boundaries. You can forgive while protecting your peace. And in doing so, you release yourself. You stop being weighed down by what you can't change, and you start focusing on what you can. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop chasing your children's approval, they sometimes start coming toward you. Not because you manipulated them, but because you've become magnetic in your calmness, your confidence, your grounded sense of self. You're no longer waiting by the phone or living for scraps of affection. You're living fully. And that draws people in. I want to say something especially for those of you who feel like you've lost your child to distance, anger, or even estrangement. I see you. I know how lonely that can feel. But I want to remind you, your worth is not defined by how often they call, how kindly they speak, or how much they include you. Your worth is constant. Your life still has meaning. Your joy still matters. You are still a vital, beautiful part of this world. So if you're finding that you've done your part and nothing's changing, I encourage you to pour your love into places that do reflect it back. That might be friendships, hobbies, faith, nature, even a group like this one right here. You don't have to wait for their respect to start building a life you're proud of. There is dignity in how you carry yourself, even in disappointment. There is grace in continuing to grow even when others stay stuck. And there is profound power in choosing peace, Not because you gave up, but because you grew up and moved forward. So as we get ready to wrap up this part of our conversation, I want you to hold this close. You are allowed to protect your energy, your heart, and your hope. And sometimes the most powerful way to regain respect is to stop trying to earn it and start simply being it. You've come this far with such open ears and such a big heart. That matters. You matter. Let's keep going, because the final part of our conversation brings it all together in a way that I hope will lift your spirit and remind you that it's never too late to live the life you truly deserve. It's something, isn't it? How just talking about this kind of pain, openly, honestly, without shame, can start to lift some of the weight off your shoulders. Maybe not all at once, but slowly, gently, like a heavy coat you realize you no longer need to wear every day. We've walked through some hard truths together, you and I. We've touched on boundaries, self-respect, listening, personal growth, and finding peace even when the people we love don't always show up how we'd hoped. And now here we are, at the heart of it all. And this is what I want to leave you with. You do not have to earn respect. You only have to remember that you deserve it. That's the truth that so many people forget as they get older. Somewhere along the way, after the kids grew up, after the roles shifted, after the attention faded, too many kind-hearted, giving, wonderful people started shrinking themselves. Started thinking maybe it's too late. Maybe the disrespect means something about them. Maybe they did something wrong. But no, friend. The fact that you're here, seeking answers and healing and growth, means your spirit is still wide awake. Your heart is still open. And that means anything is possible. Now, I want to say something clearly and with love. No one gets to decide your worth, not even your children. They might misunderstand you. They might take you for granted. They might even lash out in ways that confuse or hurt you. But their words do not define you. Their silence does not shrink your light. You are a person of value. You carry wisdom that no younger generation can fake or fabricate. You've lived, you've learned, you've earned your place in this world. And no one, no matter how familiar, gets to take that from you. So, if you've been sitting with that ache in your chest wondering, why don't they see me anymore? Let me tell you something from my heart to yours. You are still worth seeing. Still worth hearing. Still worth honoring. And the most powerful thing you can do is start acting like it, even if no one else has caught up yet. Because here's the beautiful twist. The moment you begin treating yourself like someone worthy of deep respect, you become a mirror. You show your children and everyone else how to treat you. Not by shouting, not by scolding, but by simply being. Being calm in your boundaries. Being kind without being a pushover. Being joyful on your own terms. Being full of life, full of self-worth, full of you. Think of it like a radio signal. When you shift your frequency, when you stop broadcasting pain and start broadcasting purpose, the right people tune in. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes unexpectedly. But they do. Even if it's not in the way you imagined. And if they don't? If they stay distant or difficult or disrespectful despite your growth, then you grieve. You cry if you need to. And then you stand back up and you keep living anyway. Because your life is not over. Your story is not finished. And your joy is not dependent on their behavior. I want you to think back on something in your life. Anything that you overcame. Maybe it was raising kids without much help. Maybe it was surviving a loss. Maybe it was finding your way through illness or heartbreak or starting over when you thought you couldn't. Whatever it was, you did that. You got through it. And you carry that strength with you now. That same strength, the one that got you through life's hardest chapters, is the same strength that will guide you here too. This time it's not about fixing your children. It's about finding you again. Coming home to your own worth. Letting go of the noise and returning to the truth of who you are. So what does that look like practically? It might look like finally setting that firm boundary when your child speaks disrespectfully. Calm voice. Kind eyes. Clear limits. It might look like starting a new hobby or rekindling an old friendship or walking with your shoulders just a little higher. Not because you're pretending, but because you're remembering your value. It might look like saying to yourself in the mirror each morning, I deserve to be treated with love, with honor, with respect. And I will lead the way. You're not alone in this. So many people your age, smart, loving, capable people, are walking this same road. Wanting a better connection with their children. Wanting to be seen. Wanting to stop feeling like they're fading into the background. And what I want for you is to step out of that shadow. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. But with quiet confidence and open-hearted wisdom. Because you can rebuild respect. And you can do it without yelling, without chasing, and without giving up your peace. You just start showing up as someone who respects themselves every single day. And the people around you will feel that. Some will rise to meet you. Some might not. But you will feel the difference, and that's what truly matters. Now, if this conversation has meant something to you, if even one part of it has made you feel stronger, more hopeful, more seen, I'd be honored if you'd take a moment to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, or share it with someone else who might need this message. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. This channel is here for you, like a warm light in a sometimes confusing world. We talk about real things here with heart and honesty, and I'd love for you to be part of it. So, here's to you, my friend. To your voice, your worth, your joy, your boundaries, your growth. Here's to the next chapter of your life being the one where you feel respected, starting with the way you see yourself. And until next time, take care of your heart. Be proud of who you are. And remember, here's to living your best life at any age.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It truly means a lot. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend or loved one who might benefit. And leave a comment below. We love hearing your thoughts and experiences. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest tips and uplifting advice for living your best life at any age. Now, if you're ready for more wisdom and encouragement, just click the video that's on your screen right now. It's packed with even more insights made just for you. Take care, stay positive, and we'll see you in the next one.